Question 1. Which of the following is not true of obtaining project plan approval? Until you obtain plan approval, you don't need to put changes to it through change control. Change control makes sure that only approved changes can make it into the approved plan. Only one person needs to approve the project management plan, and that's the project manager. It's important for the entire team to buy into the project management plan for it to be successful. Answer C is the correct choice. It is not enough that the project manager approves of the project management plan. It needs to be approved by all of the stakeholders in the project. Everyone on the team should feel comfortable with the processes that are going to be used to do the work. Question 2. Joe is a project manager on an industrial design project. He has found a pattern of defects occurring in all of his projects over the past few years, and he thinks there might be a problem in the process his company is using that is causing it. He uses Ishikawa diagrams to come up with the root cause for this trend over projects so that he can make recommendations for process changes to avoid this problem in the future. What process is he doing? Perform quality planning, perform quality assurance, perform quality control, qualitative risk analysis. Answer B is the correct choice. Joe is doing root cause analysis on process problems. That's quality assurance. Remember, quality control is when you are trying to find problems in your work products through inspection. Quality assurance is when you are looking at the way your process affects the quality of the work you are doing. Questions 3. Which of the following shows roles and responsibilities on your project? Bar chart, resource histogram, RACI matrix, human resource management plan. Answer C is the correct choice. The RACI matrix shows roles and responsibilities on your project. RACI stands for Responsible, Accountable, Consult, Inform. Some people on your project will be responsible for activities, others might be accountable for them. The RACI matrix is a table that shows people and how they relate to the work that is being done. Question 4. Brandy is a project manager on a software project. About halfway through development, her team found that they had not estimated enough time for some of the technical work they needed to do. She requested that the new work be added to the scope statement, and that the time to do the work be added to the schedule. The change control board approved her change. What's her next step? Update the scope and schedule baselines to reflect the approved change. Start doing the work. Gather performance metrics on the team's work so far. Perform quality assurance. Answer A is the correct choice. When a change has been approved, you always need to update the baseline and then implement the change. That way you will be sure to track your performance versus new scope and schedule expectations and not the old one. Your project has a virtual team. Half of your team members are located in another country where they are working for a subcontractor. You want to promote the top performing foreign team member to a leadership position, but you are told by the other team members that women are not allowed to hold positions of authority. When you bring it up with their manager, you are informed that it is the subcontractor's policy not to promote women, and that in their country it is culturally considered offensive for a man to take orders from a woman. What is the best way to respond to this situation? Inform the subcontractor that they must adopt a non-discriminatory policy, or you will be forced to terminate the contract and find a subcontractor that does not discriminate against women. Do nothing, because discrimination against women is a cultural norm in the subcontractor's country. Request that the team attend sensitivity training. Promote another team member, but find a different way to reward the woman for her work. Answer A is a correct choice. Sexism, racism, or other discrimination should never be tolerated, no matter what the circumstances. You must separate your team from discriminatory practices, even if those practices are normal in the country where you're working. 6. Which of the following is not a source of information about specific project constraints and assumptions? The project scope management plan, the project charter, the preliminary scope statement, the project stakeholders. Answer A is the correct choice. The project scope management plan is a really important tool in your project. It tells you exactly how you will create the project scope, define the WBS, verify that the work has been done, and make changes to the scope. But it doesn't tell you about specific assumptions that you and the team have made, or constraints on your project. To find those, you should look in the charter and preliminary scope statement and talk to the stakeholders, because they'll definitely tell you about constraints on the project. 7. When do you perform stakeholder analysis? When defining the project scope, when developing the project charter, when creating the project management plan, when putting changes through change control. Answer A is a correct choice. Stakeholder analysis is one of the tools and techniques of the scope definition process, and that shouldn't really be a surprise. After all, the goal of stakeholder analysis is to write down the needs of your stakeholders. And when is it most important to figure out what your stakeholders need? When you're defining the scope of the project work. 8. A team member approaches you with a change that could cut your schedule down by a month. What is the first thing you should do? Write up a change request and see if you can get it approved. Make that change. It's going to save time and nobody will want the project to take longer than it should. Figure out the impact on the scope of the work and the cost before you write up the change request. Tell the team member that you've already communicated the deadline for the project, so you can't make any changes now. Answer C is a correct choice. Just because the change will help the project's timeline doesn't mean that it will be an overall benefit to the project. It's important to check how the project will impact the other two constraints as part of your change request. Once you know all the facts about the change control board can make an informed decision about how to proceed. 9. When are the most expensive defects most likely to be introduced into a product? When the product is being assembled? When the product is being designed? When the quality management plan is being written? When the product is being reviewed by the customer? B is a correct answer. The most expensive defects are the ones introduced when the product is being designed. This is a little counterintuitive at first, but it really makes sense once you think about how projects are run. If your team introduces a defect into product while it's being assembled, then they have to go back and fix it. But if there is a flaw in the design, then you have to halt production and go back and figure out all the things that flaw affected. You may have to order new parts, reassemble components, and maybe even go back and redesign the product from the ground. 10. You are the project manager for a railroad construction project. Your sponsor has asked you for a forecast for the cost of project completion. The project has a total budget of $80,000 and CPI of 0.95. The project has spent $25,000 of its budget so far. How much more money do you plan to spend on the project? Answer A is a correct choice. This question is asking you to create a forecast using estimate to complete ETC, which uses CPI to project how much money is likely to be spent for the rest of the project. The first step is to plug the numbers into the formula EAC equal BAC divided by CPI, which yields EAC equal 80,000 divided by 0.95, 84,210. That's how much money you're likely to spend on the project. Now you can figure out ETC equal EAC minus AC. 84,210 minus 25,000 equal 59,210.